James, after a couple months, have you seen AJ and Kimber really acclimate themselves to that cornerback room?
Yeah, really kind of two different guys in two different situations. One veteran that's played a ton of football in a really good conference. And you feel that. Just very poised, very mature. I think he's a guy that I'm really excited about to see this summer because he's got a lot on his plate right now. And I've been impressed with him. AJ, as you guys know, different point of his career, but has come in and is super aggressive and super confident and playing really well right now. He's a physical corner. Actually think he has the ability to really play all 5 positions, corner, nickel, or safety. And both seem to be picking it up really well. I do a new staff questionnaire when I hire people, which has been really valuable to us, where after they've been here a couple months, I have them compare and contrast and get feedback on places they've been. We started doing that with the transfers as well. So we just did that last week with those guys, getting feedback, things that we can learn from and grow from, things they liked at the last program, didn't like. Same thing at Penn State. So it's been really valuable, and those guys seem to be adjusting very well.
James, how does Nolan Rucci fit in?
Just in general.
Well, I mean, just with the offensive line and just with the whole culture.
Yeah, he's been great. As you guys know, we've known him and the family for a very long time. It's been cool. His mom and dad have been at a ton of practices. As we all know, in terms of athleticism and body type and all those types of things, intelligence, he checks a lot of boxes. From my understanding, our guys love him. He's fit in really well in the room. I think he's really been excited about the development that he's gotten so far in a brief period of time. And I think he enjoys the culture, the competitiveness of kind of how we operate and do things. So far, so good. That will be, I think, a pretty heated battle, competition in training camp. I think we'll have a really competitive battle at both left tackle and right tackle in training camp, and we expect him to be a big part of that.
James, staying on the offensive line, you've had co-starters at positions, not just there, but other places on the roster. Is center a position you could have 2 starters, or do you need to have a guy on the center, even if somebody else plays sometime?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever said co-starter. I could be wrong. You guys will go back and find somewhere in the deep, dark basement somewhere that I've used that term. But I don't think we've had co-starters. But to your point, we've had guys that we've played similar reps on defense and on offense at times. So yeah, I think if wherever you have a situation where, say it's a right tackle and you got 2 guys and there's not a significant drop off, maybe one guy's earned a starting job but the other guy's kind of right behind him, then you should play both. So that could happen at a ton of positions. Obviously the offensive line is a little bit different from a chemistry standpoint. It's really important those guys work together. But from a depth and from a length of season that we're talking about and preparing for, you better do that. So, there's some guys that maybe the drop off is significant. We got to make sure by game 5 it's not anymore by playing them. And then there's other guys where the competition has been great in practice. You still want to see people in games, and they both deserve to play. And I think that's also important from a developmental standpoint as well.
James, we've heard a lot about the leadership skills of Nick Dawkins from former players and current players. Can you talk about the importance of that at that position and on the team? And do you get personality traits from his parents in him? Because I think a lot of that outgoingness would come from that direction.
Yeah, I don't know. I never was fortunate enough to meet or know his dad. His mom's awesome. His family's awesome. So I'm not sure about that. But Nick is just really smart, really charismatic, and isn't afraid to lead by actions and verbally, which you don't see as much anymore with young men, that they're willing to speak up and challenge their teammates. He's able to do that because he holds himself to that standard, which I think everybody respects when he speaks up. And he's been really good, So I think when you have intelligence and charisma and you've earned the respect of the team, players and coaches, it puts you in a position to be able to do that. So as you guys probably have seen, some of the stuff he's done with the media, some of the stuff he's done with, what do they call them?
Podcasting.
Thank you. Podcasting. He's just very articulate and charismatic. So he's going to have a bright future. I think he's going to have a really good year for us this year, but I think he's got a very bright future in whatever he decides to do long term.
What type of spring has KeAndre Lambert-Smith had, and what do you think maybe is kind of that next step for him?
Yeah, I think he's had a good spring. He's shown some real flashes this spring, and I'm seeing them on a more consistent basis. I think Coach K's done a really good job with him as well. They seem to have a really good relationship. I think Marcus has done a really good job of developing relationships with the whole room. So obviously we need him to have a big year and expect him to have a big year, and I'm seeing more consistency in the special plays and production.
James, last spring there was so much buzz about Tony Rojas. What does the second spring ball for him look like? And for developmental purposes, where is he now as a second-year player?
Yeah, I think you see physically he looks different. I want to make sure that he's not put on too much weight. But I think he's a guy that literally could play both positions. He's intelligent enough to play the mic. He's physical enough and got enough instincts to play the boundary backer, and he can run. So he's had a lot of production early on in his career. Obviously we expected to skyrocket this year, especially with Abdul moving to defensive end. I think him and Kobe will work very well together, and I think there'll still be competition with some other guys, but I think he's getting better every single day. It's interesting, you don't want coaching changes. You want as much stability as you possibly can, but there's also some aspects things that he learned from Brent Pry that Brent Pry did really well, and now he's learning some things from Tom Allen that Tom Allen does really well. You're able to kind of steal some things from all of them. So I've been impressed with his development, and I think you'll continue to see it all summer.
James, you mentioned the podcast that some of your players are doing. They're getting more opportunities to kind of show who they are off the field as well. As we continue on with these NIL opportunities, things like that, how are you seeing your program kind of evolve and these players evolve into the brands that it was intended?
Yeah, I think it's been really good for them and value, especially in the game of football where guys got helmets and pads on, and sometimes it's more challenging to get to know their personalities. So I think that's been important. I think it's important for our fan base and our community to get to know them on a different level. I think sometimes when they're 6'5", 285 pounds, we forget that they're still young men that are growing and developing. So I think all these things are really good opportunities when handled the right way. But I also think there's an important lesson in all of this to still keep the main thing, and getting really good grades and playing really good football and putting the team in position to win, and for them to put themselves in a position to be able to chase their long-term goals both on and off the field. And I know their brand is part of that, but I don't think any of them came here because of their brand. They came here to get a great education, play big-time football, and then be able to have these opportunities and be supported in these opportunities. So we just got to make sure that we keep things in those categories and in that order. School, football, 1A and 1B, and then the brand and all that other good stuff is great. One of the things I love is the gear. Some of the stuff, the gear the guys are making, Dawk stuff. If you guys haven't had Dawk stuff, the material is unbelievable. Our whole staff's wearing them. It's pretty cool what some of these guys are doing, and I think some of the, entrepreneurial lessons that they're learning early on even in some of them that don't go well, I think there's lessons in learning them now while they're still in college and have resources like professors and our player development staff and all those things. Pretty cool.
Last one.
James, have you been able to get any kind of a real feel yet for where you're at with kicker and punt returner, or is that too early to say with just practice inside?
Yeah, kicker. Yeah, I think we've gotten a ton of reps. Obviously, it's different in the stadium. We wanted to go in Beaver Stadium the last couple of weekends. The weather hasn't totally cooperated with that, but that'll go on way into camp. But they've done a nice job. And you're talking more field goal, right? Yeah, it's been a really good competition with all three of them. Not ready to kind of name an order or starter or any of those types of things. And punt returner, that's a hard one. As you guys saw when Day started returning the ball for touchdowns, and you guys were all looking at me like I was crazy. Why wasn't he on the field earlier? The challenge is, for the most part, what you can evaluate is catch percentage and decision making in practice. You just get very little live reps of a guy returning punts that the offensive coaches would be comfortable or the defensive coaches would be comfortable. So that's a hard thing to evaluate. And then sometimes you may say it's a live rep and then the punter punts it so well it gets fair caught. So you don't get the reps you really want. So that's a challenge, is figuring that out, unless there's just somebody that's just so obvious. And then I think the other thing that I think all of this taught us is the explosive punt returns are critical, but also going back to the catch percentage is also critical, because the ones you don't catch that roll for 30 yards, all that yardage still adds up. So that's a challenging thing to evaluate, but we got a lot of guys working at it, and we'll get some live work on that this summer once we have it narrowed down to maybe one or two guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.